좀 전에 좀 제가 강의 받이 최담제기 아니나 야단이라는 게 이미 실주 자다는 인도제 강조는 소론되네 소론 제가 나가 가정지 최기 되었습니다. 나라도 디지모도 무슨 좀 되게 좀 최세지 되는 강의 받이 최담제기 아니라는 게 다네 랑게 레기니 실주 로진되는 인도 강다게 리범지 최라는데 최기 되었습니다. 강의 나온 줄 알았다. 디지집에 뽑아도 말이지. 가지도 저러저러는 나라주는 나 내가 너무 뭐 사원님을 누나가 나가는데 저러저러 너가 먼저 막아야 뭐 내가 눈에 나가고 이제 남아지는데 아들은 명제요 뭐나 제대로 저러 만나서 이소라도 되면 요만 아니 남아지는데 간다 저도 이제 내가 일로 잡아가고 이제 이제 왜냐면 이제 나에게 달라는 이제 그거는 매야 저하고 일하게 해서 마찬가지로 다 저도 강간되는 거 가면은 제발만 받으면 아무런 더 되면 되지 주변이 있는 거 가거든요. 나 맞아라 저거 그러면서 너 막알라에 줄이 좀 나오니 말이죠. 좀 이제 마음에 들어서 아니 가는 일을 영원히 세워도 되려면 이제 다 먹고 내서는 먹고 이런 거 잘라 찬스로 뭐도 저런 거 올라가면 지금 그게 좀 집에 이런 붙이려고 이제 그런 내저지 그벤 되면 도지 영어를 저 받는 사람 말하면 나가는 걸 보면 그런 심에 권에 좀 구성들이 무릎 잘 넣어서 나도 어머니들이야 상관없이야 응아도 들리시와당 되네 and sanju weekend in dusan weekend and sanju de trouble me manam shayin.
First of all, I would like to wish everyone a good morning, and since it is the weekend, I hope everyone is enjoying their weekend.
나는 신기 알아 인터넷 라이브 웹카스트 신기 어머지아래 권한 수임인 다들이 비망부치 고생이 비자 근데 뒤주의 둔제 강소리네야 예전에 점주쇼에
There are also many viewers who are watching the live webcast over the internet today, and so they also have, most of them have days off, and so I'd also like to give my greetings to them.
다들이 깨는 게 외신이 사대 샤임 깨는 게 외신이 제발 제대로 된 필수사거든요. 깨는 게 외신인지 뭐군 나리 자왕에 말고 바샤 대회도 천주기론을 줘볼까 되는 게 외신이 때문에 자대 domni 대바다는 여와디 최화수스인 땜베탑도 배는 나이 신인 땜베도 쉐바고 대라 당보교신 땡그 태바는 숨데 롱다를 받을 빼와 대라 롱네 파바 뒤발에 로마상보 라마 군데다 라마 케바달다도 되면 지시신의 개배연이 되는 주시에 송소 파바 제동발에 인데들 주스 무슨버쳐 라나메베 안타버 저베 상 전중 오버도 상장 되베 당보니도 개배신이 달라 녀버쳐 땜버쳐 녀고로 장시에 송소를 보네 탐제 개바탑에 간사의 최지 교회신이 된 거버 담자 rani choso jiba jom gobertan choso jiba jom mishi bichir sheban this is kubi be jun ki sangeshin dobe be ran sangeshin te tenshena daja zoba sange tobar jabala sonam de ishi gibi 초 탐지 속에 대수업에 탑 계획신이라라 레베체 용모 받아 시제 뒤비가 탐지 본건 대본에 탑 계획신이라라 레베체 빼네 계획신인 남 유면을 두도 람게다 집에 사조를 두도 게마다고 초초 볼까도 인내받다고 될 빼당보시나 남 유면을 들어서 람게면 남 너도도 그도도 차도요 람게다도 남나도도 고도도 차도 매리 공부 취미스 봐 디서치 버시 침버린 대신도 라나면 왜안 답을 이 라나면 전주기 라면서 저 상기기 산조 람게다도 티버치미 계획신이면은 가든 무디고람도 노르도 가든 인류게람도 골도 가든 라사게람도 차도요 람게다도 계획신이나 님도 단도나 람나 노르도도 골도도 차도면 탐지게미 통계도 침버 요리 대자야 변중의 남다른 계획신이네 퍼르도 집에 람도 집에 람게다 보셔서 베니와시는 집에 사전 중구는 제세라서 사와드 집에 대라 저에 제 게마면아 류숨 그 소섬 로제는 예수 중도요 게마 쯤보더니 저나 예수면 집에 유대시 전주 길람도 쇼니 소남도 이 소소 탐지 게마 통계도 게마다 계획신이 매나 중구인들 남도 녀모바다 치뒤도 런들라서 계획 노 촉도 된주소 쨀도 대들이 녀모 중구선의 라니주는 게를 된주소겐 쨀버지 제 송수 게마다 계획신이나 말은 계획 노 미저 된주소 미세바 탐지 게마 통계도 좀 대들이 베주고 남다라 제주스베 소남 탐지의 계획신이기 수화시 수화다 개념은 미요 남다라 계획신이나 나자 탐지 게마 내서 침버리 계획 게마다고 제 송수 베스ум바시는 추심바 계획에서 예반면바 좀 생도 슈게 파가르 미제바 추니도情况 추니 니기 캐원 요라 예바요는 대배주기 태가르 침버리 요르 대지의 코웨자 솔레 계획 예바다 계획신이면 담배 추기 주선을 주는 친야 코니도 친 코웨 윤기체 대다라 자완즈면면 주의 버르치면 윤대 탐제라고 라마면 시더미 제송수 태나 예바다 계획신이 때문에 코웨자 솔 냥에는 데베 감서지 버려 대다라야 동복외변 돌에 계획신이 코에 추 첨부를 되면은 예받다 보시에서 대회는 남게는 결마 예받다 계획신이 되버죠 계획신이 되버죠 차오
And so we are continuing today with the chapter on the condition, the spiritual master. The spiritual master, even though we have the excellent working basis of precious human life, if we are not encouraged by spiritual masters, then it will be difficult to follow the path to enlightenment because of the power of non-virtuous inveterate propensities of previous lives and the force of habitual tendencies. Therefore, it is necessary to attend to spiritual masters. The summary, reason and classification, the characteristics of each classification, method and benefits of attending spiritual masters, these 5 comprise attending spiritual masters. First, the reasons. There are 3 reasons explaining why we have to attend a spiritual master. They're scriptural, logical, and similes. Scriptural. First, from the condensed Perfection of Wisdom Sutra. The noble disciple who has respect for the Lama should always attend the wise Lama because one receives good qualities from him. And from the 8,000 stanza Perfection of Wisdom Sutra, from the beginning, a bodhisattva mahasattva who wishes to achieve the unsurpassable, complete, perfect enlightenment should meet, attend, and pay respect to spiritual masters. Logic. One who wishes to achieve the omniscient state should attend a spiritual master because of not knowing how to accumulate merit or how to purify obscurations. The positive illustration of this is the Buddhas of the 3 times. The opposite are the solitary realizers. To explain, in order to achieve complete perfect Buddhahood of all the accumulations, including merit and primordial wisdom, must be gathered. This means that to depend upon the spiritual master, all the obscurations, including the afflicting emotions and the subtle obscurations to enlightenment, must be purified. The methods to abandon these obscurations also depend upon the spiritual master. Simile. A spiritual master is like a guide when traveling to an unknown place, like an escort when going to a dangerous place, and like a boatman when crossing a big river. The explanation of the first simile. When traveling to an unknown place without a guide, there is a danger of mistaking the path, of losing the path, or of straying from the path. When a good guide is followed, then there will be no danger of mistaking the path, no danger of losing the path, and no danger of straying from the path. We will reach our destination without wasting any steps. Similarly, when entering the path of unsurpassable enlightenment and going the way of Buddhahood without a Maha and a spiritual master as a guide, then there is the danger of getting lost on the non-Buddhist path, of mistaking the path for that of the hearer, or straying to the path of the solitary realizer. On the other hand, if the guidance of the spiritual master is followed, then without mistaking the path, losing it, or straying from it, we can arrive in the city of omniscience. It is said in Sri Sambhava's life story. The spiritual master is like a guide who leads one on the path of perfection. The second simile is of a dangerous place which holds the threat of harm from robbers, thieves, wild beasts, and so forth. When going to such places without an escort, there is a danger to one's body, life, and wealth. With a proper escort, one can reach the destination without any danger. Likewise, by entering into the path of enlightenment and aspiring to the city of omniscience by gathering the great accumulations of merit and primordial wisdom without a spiritual master as an escort, there is a danger of losing the life of favorable conditions and of losing the wealth of virtue to thieves and robbers, the inner discursive thoughts and afflictive emotions, and to the outer maras, evil spirits, and so forth. It is said, when the robber-like afflictions get a chance, it will rob all your virtues and will even take your life in favorable conditions. But if you are not separated from a spiritual master who is like an escort, you will approach the city of omniscience without losing your wealth of virtue or having your life of favorable conditions taken away. Thus, as it is said in Sri Sambhava's life story, all the merits of the bodhisattvas will be protected by the spiritual master. The life story of Upasaka Achala says, the spiritual master is like an escort who takes you to the state of omniscience. The third simile. When crossing a big river aboard a boat without a boatman, you will not cross to the other side because the boat will either sink under the water or be taken by the river current. With a boatman, you will cross to the other side to the other shore by his efforts. Likewise, when crossing the ocean of samsara without a spiritual master to act as a boatman, then even if you enter in the gate into the boat of the holy Dharma, you will be carried by the current of samsara or will drown in samsara. It is said, the boat will not take you to the other side without a boatman. Even if you have the complete qualities, you will not be freed from samsara if you are without a lama. So therefore, if you attend a spiritual master who is like a boatman, you will reach the dry bank of nirvana on the other side of the ocean of samsara. The Planting the Noble Stock of Sutra says, a spiritual master is like a boatman who crosses the ocean of samsara. Therefore, you should attend spiritual masters like guides, escorts, or boatmen.
계획신이 이어하는 시리 계획신이 소수기보다 계획신이 사셔버린 내비 전주서마다 계획신이 상계 주베고도 계획신이 lon주 주베고 대다자랑 내급던 자르데 랑레 당보비도 상계의 사셔버린 내비 전주서마는 땜베 뉴반메베 계획신이 소수기고를 땜바고 랑레기 집에 폐실 다사는 계획신이 사셔버린 내비 전주서마는 땜을 뉴바고 랑 초람첨부 인jel을 내자는 계획신이 상계 주베고를 땜을 뉴바고 rāngsā shimbōla nē zāna gēwē shīnī lōngchū dzōbe kūtē dzōbe kūla tēmbra nyōma wā tēdara shīlē rāngla tīng kāngchē nā dācā lē tāngbōba lē dā nyōmu mīngwā nā dzōbe zī gēwē shīnī khōngmā nam tēmbā wē shē tōngwā tsāngā mē bē mē bā lē gēwē shīnī sūsū kīwā dā jē tē sūng kī dzōme lām nā wā rā chī gēwē shīnī khōngmā nam dā jā wā rā gyō tē nā nā kī tīng chē wā nē nā kī tīng chē wā nē gēwē shīnī sūsū kīwā yī nō gēwē shīnī 시부대 신이 시에바라 상견 집안 넘버니 방에 방법 무슨 소바이 캠반 넘버니 가에 20 무슨 소바이 계획신이 좀 사셔면 내비 전주서 만나면 사탕번 주변에 버리기 방마다 27이수 나 개발도 저 사제바 연세 내비 전주서 만나 현지에서 와주는 아니면 철라왕 대신에 샘도로 요제도 레다 개와도 몇바도 몇놈도 준주대 이시의 철라왕 될 철라왕은 지진점 디시드 내버 뉴스 샘라왕은等你 지들 내버 제대로 되어봐서 띵인들 냠을 줘니고 요새라와 심전으로 요새를 뭐 빠도 잘 뱀니고 레라원 감다 사던 로와다 깨내다 내급신은 요원교 레는 신의 줘니고 깨와라원 섬제는 내 용수 마념신 되베카서 깨어는 일 데르게네게 대인 예배 먹어 봐 매발라원 살아서 출라서 면나 균유고 말로라원 제대로 되어봐 신도 다다 생기 좀 표현서 버지 말람 debsi te ngombar chun drubao chundula na simjin number cha chundji chundu pa de de nibo yishi la wan che da de da ngebe tsik de ba na rabji tar chim ber khen ba che la wan ji ri bu ji zam de simje tamje le ming de tsik de yi gi cho xian da ge dollar so che number shen ji je song ji gi so su ge da jin sim yong su sim ber che ni ba ge we xin ni su su gi wi sin yi ya ni de ge da de ba ya na shi da de ba ya na ni de ba tela tambo chunju sim be sale tel number jeda jena chunju sim be ge we xin ni number tamje zobar yimbar rigbar chadi ye khanshen chunju sim be surbi de ba da chunju sim be de ne ma do te ba da to ba de ba de jesu ning za wa de ba de mi ji ba de ba de so ba de ba de ni yong su mi gyo wa yimba de ci gi cha wa de ba xie song su ni ban do de ge ne ya ji ti sun bu wa song yu ti ni de ben de ne chunju sim be de ba pun zo yin xie cha xie song de ma do te be de ba ja cha wa shirib je be xie gi ti sun ja ba 기부 담배 레지 식송으로 꾸니 녀모 바 남버 차원이 신이 대관은 있대 뭐 수바리 제수비 쩌바를 주고 다브라 계획신이 디젠트를 개발 제주스비 뒤슈 쏘가 제미 너무 신수 티버시비 되는 개발 제주스비 도마든 데모 대답이 계획신이 니네 덴베 타올라 숨디 꿀데다림 주고는 지더데마 묘바도 그베고는 지더데마도 루바다 내den이 고는 지더데마 담볼은 니 꿀데 지더데마 차차와도 뉴도 당와도 류류바도 거와차와도 동에 심기 뒤수 마와도 원바 매베스 양다 양도 따와라 소바데 빼나 총부기 분노상 계획신이 지들 때마신 파보 동부 그변도는 계획신이 따와라 원바 매베지 지지치시나 계획신이는 통화가 중화가 제월가 오시에 순수 림주 지들 때마 최도 준비 세랑 그러다 마르자도 땡다 뉴기 수민도 놀라서비 여지기 류다 소라미도 계획신이 닝고르 잡아 빼나 파보 따도 계획신이 지들 때마신 변중근 남달레기 상계기 전주의 계획신이라 림주체베 토보시에 송수 매바다 그베치들 때문에 계획신이라 상계기 주시라 지게수비 까미 줘봐 매바다 그바다 당화게 봐 빼나 변진 나로베 계획신이 지다 때바시노 야외 юм리가 큐기 계획신이는 nen데도 그바게 버차고 팡버차고 라도 당으로 차고시에 송수 세야 계획신이 타고게 줘봐요 빼나 개보매 남들시노 주바데는데 이거는 지들 때문에 계획신이 돼 최라 퇴바다 삼바다 공부 숨기고는 주바데 nen데 주셔바데 계획신이 초도 nie버 딘주와 이노 대들인 도대겐 템바치 지게 템바 주바데 돼 있으면 양당 구하시 제 송소 계획신이 고는 상계 토버지 변중근 난달이 계획신이 고버지는 상계 천주 토버 제 송소 계획신이는 치슈와 대한 저러도 응시 주순상을 주기 쇼와 대한 조알라는 전주 기술도 되면서 우실라라는 내변 두시데 철을 맹긴 두시데 계획신이 매매 두시데 철을 내대도 냠설래 봐내 초 내 여러 초 두시 개베쇼 죽라네 내 커브도 보도 내 셰프도 보도 내 독신도 비견방 계획신이 때문에 배연이 변주고 남달래게 여기 계획신이 양다 벌써 전주서만 연소도 미동어 계획신이 요소서 전주서만 디베 초벌라도 민조 계획신이 요소장 전주서만 티버신비 최를 미도고 계획신이 양다 벌써 전주서만 수수기 위사를 용선 다와시 송수 야외 윤리경 계획신이 요소 전주서만 선발신번 라나 뉴도 라나메 방향도 그러고 조버 창가오 시수 담배주 이식이 너무 타바를 무지게 계획신이 때문에 료데 숨바오
Second, the classifications. There are 4 classifications of spiritual masters. The ordinary spiritual master, the bodhisattva spiritual master who has attained certain bhumis, the nirmanakaya spiritual master, and the sambhogakaya spiritual master. These 4 types are related to an individual's spiritual realizations. When one is ordinary or just beginning, one cannot attend Buddhas and bodhisattvas who have attained higher levels as spiritual masters, so one attends an ordinary spiritual master. When one's karmic obscurations are more purified, one can attend a bodhisattva spiritual master who has attained higher levels. After one accomplishes the greater path of accumulation, one can attend nirmanakaya, spiritual master. When one attains the high bodhisattva levels, one can attend Sambhogakaya, spiritual master. Of these four, who is the greatest benefactor? When we are in the obscuring darkness of the karma of afflictive emotions and have no opportunity to even see the face of a spiritual master, so how could we attend one? By meeting ordinary spiritual masters, receiving the light of their teachings and shining it on the paths, one will gain the opportunity to see the superior spiritual masters. So therefore, the greatest benefactor for us is the ordinary spiritual master. The characteristics of each classification. Nirmanakaya and Sambhogakaya spiritual masters. Having purified the two obscurations, Buddhas embody the perfection of the purifications. Possessing the two omniscient wisdoms, they embody the perfection of primordial wisdom. Bodhisattva spiritual masters. Bodhisattva spiritual masters who have attained higher levels from the 1st to the 10th bhumi possess varying amounts of wisdom and purification. In particular, bodhisattvas who attain levels above the 8th possess the 10 powers to benefit other beings, such as the power over life, mind, provision of necessities, cause or action, birth, intentions, aspiration pairs, miracles, wisdom awareness, and the Dharma. Power over life means that one can live as long as one wishes. Power over mind means that one can maintain meditative concentration as long as one wishes. Power over provision of necessities means that one can shower down a rain of limitless necessities on sentient beings. Power over cause means that one can shift the effects of karma from one particular life to another sphere, world, realm, or birth. Power over birth means that one can maintain meditative concentration, and if born in the desire realm, one will not be afflicted by its faults. Power over intentions means that one can change whatever one wishes into earth, water, fire, air, and so forth. Power over aspiration prayers means that if one aspires to perfectly benefit oneself and others, it will be accomplished. Power over miracles means that one can exhibit innumerable manifestations in order to cause sentient beings to be interested in the spiritual path. Power over wisdom awareness means one has perfected the understanding of phenomena, their meaning, the definition of words, and confidence. Power over Dharma means that in an instant, bodhisattvas can fully satisfy all the sentient beings who, according to their dispositions and in their many different languages, through words and groupings of letters based on the many different types of sutras and so forth. C. Ordinary spiritual masters. There are 3 types of ordinary spiritual masters: those who possess 8 qualities, those who possess 4 qualities, and those who possess 2 qualities. Concerning the first type, the Bodhisattva Bhumi says, one should understand that a bodhisattva who has the 8 qualities is a perfect spiritual master. What are the 8? One who possesses the moral ethics of a bodhisattva, is learned in the bodhisattva's teachings, possesses realization, possesses compassion and kindness, possesses fearlessness, possesses patience, possesses an indefatigable mind, and is expert in verbal expression. The second is described in the ornament of Mahayana Sutras. Possessing great scholarship and dispelling doubt, whatever he says is acceptable, distinguishing the 2 realities. This is a perfect bodhisattva spiritual master. Possessing great scholarship means being able to give more extensive teachings because of vast wisdom. The spiritual master can dispel doubt because he has profound discriminating awareness. His words are acceptable because his action is pure virtue. He explains the primary characteristics of afflictive emotions and of their purification. The third is portrayed in engaging the conduct of bodhisattvas. A spiritual master is always expert in the Mahayana teachings. He will not abandon the bodhisattva vow even at the risk of his own life. In other words, the spiritual master is learned in the Mahayana vehicle and holds the bodhisattva vow. The method. When this kind of authentic spiritual master is found, there are 3 ways to attend him. These are attending him through respect and service, attending him through devotion and reverence, and attending them through practice and persistence in the teachings. Respect and service. The first has 2 subdivisions. Attending them through respect means doing prostrations, standing quickly, bowing down, circumambulating, expressing yourself with a feeling of closeness at the right time, gazing at them on and off without satiation, and so forth. The example is how Suddhana, the son of a merchant, attended his spiritual masters. The Planting the Noble Stock Sutra says, one should never be satisfied by gazing at the spiritual master because it is difficult to see spiritual masters. It is rare for them to appear on the earth, and it is difficult to meet them. Attending the spiritual masters through service means to offer them dharmic food, clothes, bedding, seats, medicine, and all other types of necessary things, even at the risk of your own body and life. The example is the way Sadapararudita attended spiritual masters. It is stated in Sri Sambhava's life story. The enlightenment of a Buddha will be achieved through service to spiritual masters. Devotion and reverence. To attend them through devotion and reverence means that one should regard the spiritual master as the Buddha. One should not disobey their teachings. One should develop devotion, respect, and a clear mind. The example is the manner in which Naropa attended his spiritual masters. The mother of the victorious one of perfection says, "You should persistently, repeatedly, and constantly revere spiritual masters. Be very generous to them and cherish them." Furthermore, one should avoid wrong view toward the skillful actions of spiritual masters. Instead, one should respect them highly. For an example, refer to the life story of King Anala. Practice and persistence. Attending them through practice and persistence in the teachings means to truly integrate and practice the teachings of the spiritual master through hearing, contemplation, and meditation practice, and through persistence. This will make the spiritual master supremely pleased. The ornament of Mahayana Sutra says, attending the spiritual master means practicing whatever is taught. By this, they will be completely pleased. One will achieve Buddhahood when the spiritual master is pleased, as it says in Sri Sambhava's life story. When you please the spiritual master, you will achieve the enlightenment of all Buddhas. There are 3 steps to receiving teachings from the spiritual master: preparation, actual teachings, and the consequence. First, the preparation means to receive the teachings with bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment. While actually receiving the teachings, you should regard yourself as the patient, the Dharma as the medicine, and the spiritual master as the physician. Listening to and practicing the Dharma should be regarded as recovering from the sickness. As a consequence, the faults of being like a pot turned upside down, a leaking pot, and a pot filled with poison will be avoided. The benefits. The beneficial aspects of attending a spiritual master are mentioned in Sri Sambhava's life story. Noble family. A bodhisattva who is well regarded by spiritual masters will not fall into the lower realms. A bodhisattva who is escorted by spiritual masters will not fall into the hands of an evil person. A bodhisattva who is well guided by the spiritual master will not turn away from the Mahayana path. A bodhisattva who is well guided by the spiritual master will go beyond the ordinary person's level. The mother of the victorious one's perfection of wisdom says, a bodhisattva mahasattva who is well guided by spiritual masters will quickly achieve unsurpassable complete enlightenment. This is the 3rd chapter dealing with the spiritual master from the jewel ornament of liberation, the wish-fulfilling gem of the noble teachings.
다들 인주산에 단디 겁리야 계획신이 다 계획신이 고르마보지 가르다 친이 계획신이 기친이 대삼절니 이거는 densu 다들 개버송여 왜임래 근데 인주산에 다들 계획신인데 다도 뭔게 시험들면서 다 인상 양취 나바상게 위치리야 감묘신이 interest 좋아요 되게 감묘신이 카시에게 섬주서는 코란주 뉴주 컨제도스 컨제지도 쉬위나 그전 뉴주데 나바상게 위치 섬으로다 취기 니루왕 금세 되게들 나랑 가위스 이나 잠주 쇼미스 잠주 chen 잠주 제아도 데레도 스카소에다 저 룩스르 지당 초가르 찬도스 저도 증메스 아니 라마 댄사도 증메스 수수기 에가 남바상게 위치에 좋아체 텔레 수수 게르게면에 간도도 로존체 대냠내체 계승에게 되는 잠조야 마슈 진짜 마셔 전에 미상고지 상바상보 섬으로다 야고 전에 잠주 제발 잠주 슝게 되서라 하가르 차나 안테 비미시지 야고지 마르베스다 근데 신인데 용되게 있다 마드린 주산에 다 구조 숨겨나네 최를 계속 조인 사수치다 상계의 긴준의 미세 계속 조사다 상계라 다 미세 이제 조최를 계속 되는지 계획신인 대사로 점주체 사로 되게 지금이었어 디자인 디자인 온디 알아
Now, here there has been much said about the spiritual masters, the characteristics of the spiritual masters, the sorts of intentions and actions that they should have. This has been described in detail. But first, maybe it's better to speak about this. These days, there are some people who take interest in Buddhism, and the way their attitude or the way they see it is that they say, it's good, I like Buddhism, I like the Buddhist Dharma, I like the understanding of the nature of things, I like the reasons for it, but I'm not going to go for refuge. That's just some sort of a custom or a religion, and I don't want to do that. And then these people also say that they don't want to attend or serve the Lama. And so they say, I'm going to study Buddhism, I like Buddhism, I'm going to study it, I'm going to practice it. But even if I don't go for refuge, if I end up as a good person, someone who does good and who acts well, and who's even better than people who take refuge, then isn't that good? And so there are people who think in this way. And so when we look at this, this is as if these are people who go for refuge to the Dharma, but they do not go for refuge to the Buddha or the Sangha. They're primarily going for refuge to the Dharma, and they are not going for refuge to or relying upon or serving a spiritual friend. And so there are people like this.
다텔레 미세 던지게 요래 요마르 사스케 민도 데라 다이메네 삼로 동과지 가래 어르사나 베 차샤나 남규 아주 베는 참배서로인데 나서 춘준으로인데 포함이미나 안 아주기 가수래지 인터넷 저 자기야당 다나 신기 탭 디즈난 때네 맨저 간데셔도 디즈난 때네 수수기 맨저 저 뒤세 가져다 소소소기 내 소토보다 내래 격토를 벌써 연구를 나서 춘준인데이나 나서 첨보지 베너지 나자 시즈 첨보 따든데게 베너 나자 베너지 닝기 나자 서버든데다 다는 신이 텔라서버 딱 간다 나자 시즈 체외 나자 첨보들이 포함이미나 덴덴 아주 임지를 땡고 치거를 마도베게 엔지 수수지 부기 되네 지내 규마 sommer 내 참모도 죄는 신 수수기 죄켜다 깔아가고 싶다래. 드디어 인지민지 배맹 토알이야 체도 장바 체버서는 장도 체도 롭종 체버 디체도 텔레베 체버도 파베 냠내 유에 된게 강사지 땡과도 지당 텔레야 간다 차게인데 마손에 간다 가르쳐야지 차게 쳐야지 고여버디 세브시다래 다는 신기 최냠내 체베걸리냐 체도 지 셈내 지 펜버르데 지 수수기 롭종 체는 내급 지 셈내 펜버르데 셈내 지 예수 태바르 데지기 이미나 다버리 이제 용 시버르제 이베나 최기 펜도 차상으로 제야 다 최기도 미유르디 다 최기 펜도 차상으로 레트야 지당 띵추부선한다도 다야나 다 최기 미유디 타르베 공방선한다도 다 간다 내급기 지 가수에 내급기 데디기기 초아 가무 대접시 뭐인바 오늘 지 가수에 디기스두산에 나바상기에 난 디기스두 초아 점시 뭐인바 다디버지 온도 somewhere 다 간다 realization the state of mind somewhere 다지 심기 내세르지 디기사의 심기 내세르지랑 에너지 semgi 고방 섬으로 다 딘데르지 전도 녀거나 rani jibugi pelo gyab dana singi twesam cheba jibu pengu yamane ta dela ngebrado di thwali ya ji nyamnyon da chedu jangba yebe gewe sinye sanan dado chushogi ta chobo sangbo ji de ji tense di chun de robala de ne su su de da kan mi gyashen bo sanan dado mi labchao de ji duya 탑시 제과데 다 개침 차디 하래 제자한테 섬샤과데 개침을 섬 정기
Now, whether or not that is fine, it's difficult to say. We cannot really say. But there is something here that we need to think about. It's like, for example, when for us, when we have some sort of illness, if it's a small illness like a cold or a minor fever, then we'll maybe look in some books or look on the internet and see what sort of treatment one needs for that medicine. Then we'll go out and we'll go to the pharmacy and get whatever medicines we need, and we'll treat ourselves. And then we're usually able to heal ourselves when it's some sort of a small minor illness such as this. But when it is a grave illness, a dangerous or nearly fatal illness, if you have heart disease or some other terrible illness such as that, then that's not something we can do on our own. We definitely need to go to a doctor in those instances. We don't treat those the same way as we do a minor illness. And so we go to someone who has undergone a particular study of medicine and who has a good practice of medicine. We approach an individual who has done that, and then it's from them that we receive the treatment for the medicine. We need more than we do with just a minor illness. Similarly, when we practice the Dharma, if we're to study on our own, do our own practice, then it's quite possible, of course, that this will benefit the mind and give us some sort of a respite in our mind. But whether we'll be able to gain all of the benefit of the Dharma or really fulfill the aims of the Dharma is an entirely different question. And so really, the aims of the Dharma are to achieve the state of liberation. And so when we practice, we are not just doing it merely to achieve some nice sensation or pleasurable sensation of happiness or fun or joy. In the Dharma, what we mean is not just when we talk about happiness in the Dharma, we're not just talking about some sort of a feeling. We're talking about clear realization, a state or a level of mind, a particular state that we can achieve in our minds. And so if we are seeking that sort of state, then if we were to just read on our own and do our own listening and contemplation, then that would not be beneficial. In order to fulfill that aim, we need to find someone who is expert in that, who has experience, who has engaged in a particular study of it. We need a spiritual friend, a Dharma friend who can help us. And then that person can aim us, or can help us in achieving our vast aims and can help us in learning the different methods. And so this is important to understand and keep in mind.
And Havardo gave senior madam che, Susule Garjue, that's it. Jidan Susu is shadi, I already. 이빈에 가시지 딱 가르래 근데 제 나게를 좀 차지 수 narrow minded someone sam로 무수 도버를 차지 미신다 더주디서 미숑게 수수 더주마도 미숑게 근데 차라 년가래 다른 시안 가시에 가서 딱 얘기 셈기 깨 someone 셈그 나로 다 깨지시 깨져를 될 년에 someone 셈그 다 someone 가시지 ko sem nan ba ji ge ne down do ji su do ge jan ne xie yun do ji sound ji 기듯이 다 텔에 년지도 산 걸리 근데 녀바사 하는 인가 같다. 너한테 생고난 드라마를 지다 누산 텔레비 이제 현지 되게 지가서 간데 치서는데 녀바사 하는 내가 요네요. 제상 더다도도디 맞으는 유 가르쳐요 알았잖아. 되네 가르쳐래. Interdependent relationship somewhere 봐 뒤중기 이제봐 세윤주산에 아주 친한 그 유게 마버지를 되네요 되봐 나라도 다다지 류초한데야 친한 그 유게 마버지를 되네요 되봐 인두산에 엔 아주 최르베 qab리미네 친한 그 유게 마버지를 되네 최대 다르지면 중국어로 마도베 나지부지 제세기 녜지부 제세기 사듯이 가라가고 싶다래라 친한 그 유게 딘디 되게 될량 아주 그바 respect somewhere 그바야바당 대솔라야베 지 가수에 자천부 개천부를 지지 디주기 지난 게 딘디기 로당한데서 학고에 토안에 냠내 체비네 이 신에 냠내 배 탈신 버지도 표준 초과 야버지 용을 삼버들 정도 따뜻하지 가마 순주 담바다 민도 딱 가마 순주 니조점 퍼센트
And in particular, if you think, oh, that I'm not going to follow a spiritual master, but I'm just going to have confidence in myself. Of course, it's good to have confidence in yourself, but there's the danger that this becomes voices. And so then you just, and so in that, there's a danger that you'll become narrow-minded and that you won't be able to accommodate the views or the understandings of other will. Likewise, when this happens, you start hearing voices, or you might hear things. You have this internal conversation. You might start hearing voices in your head. And then when you listen to all those voices in your head, there's the danger you're just going to go crazy. So you're listening to voices in your head, you hear them, you believe them, and then then there's the danger you'll just become crazy. And so the main point here really is that everything is in interdependent relationships. Everything relies upon anything and everything else. And there are many external and internal conditions that, that need to come together for anything to happen. Likewise, when we are practicing the Dharma, we can only do this in dependence upon the external and the internal conditions. It is difficult if you were to say, I'm going to do this entirely on my own. And so for that reason, we need to respect the internal and the external conditions. We need to consider them important. And then only once we understand that will we be able to really do our practice and bring it to its culmination and do it excellently. And so now we have about 20 minutes for tea.
다들 본주보다 싫으시 다 가르쳐야 돼. 나 계획이니 땡겨버대 개체부인바 다 땜베 폐 마대베 님이 땜베 수 다 조다 가서 대외 계획이니 진이체 데이터에 땜베 폐 마대베 님이 다네 치더 땜베 수 딱 간다 튼스 넘버 시 거네 갱교의 신인의 버지 두대면로 섬 정도
As I said before, it is very important for us to attend a spiritual master. And so here this is taught primarily through 4 different topics: the characteristics of the spiritual master, the benefits of attending or serving a spiritual master, the problems of not serving a spiritual master, and how to serve the spiritual master. So there are these 4 different topics that summarize the topic of the spiritual master, the condition.
다디 겁리야 답에 타긴 겁들이야 로메 신이 개바 수요 말에 댄시 로메 신이 개바 마데마데 가르사나 콘도 닐리 주베게 뇌사란라도 루심기 다 텐주르니가 댐 밀루리지 수베qab리아 루심기 댐 푸숨 소바시 겨바 순스메 두사네 디왕기 달로메 신이르도 바지 디남 두르게르지 달로마데 조디 엔 텐주르기 최저게 상와 다 안데딘도 고저숨도 디버심볼라 너도 매베 대바예바 나 드르지 마타야 고예베 임레스
In the jewel ornament of liberation, the characteristics of the student are not taught in detail. And the reason for this is that previously, in the prior chapter, in teaching the student, who is the appropriate vessel to be able to practice virtue, to teach us about the basis of the body and mind, the precious human body. And so it basically says that if we have this excellent, that excellent human body here is what we need in order to support, to be as the support for serving or approaching the Lama. And so in these ways, this fulfills the characteristics of the student. In other words, these are at a minimum having the 18 leisures and resources, as well as having irreversible faith in the Mahayana.
델라야 당보 달라메 신이를 주비입니다. 지당 그 라마사데 달라마스보다 개회 신이 선로다 오늘 전 개회 신이라 봐. 수르 지기 다체데 개회 신이래. 안드니 지상아 나도바 지 라마사들 망보 용데도 와. 단도나지 단 남규 맞아 지저 나로 라마사드 표준 망아 단딩에 술 치고래. 다 드인주산에 달라마스도 가르쳐 걸었으나 라메기 게르디 에는 야게 그 산스크 가라로 되고란지 산스크디기 에네 젤리아 구루 스두산에 나 텔레아드는 고맘 구루 지와라 지외 되는 거です 우망아 추진거도 사는 구루 지와라와서 산디 지와사들 야부터 어마시 구루 지와라와서 심진 지와서 심진기 심진 지와라 세상 이거에 구루 지와사들 야대지 가지고 자 잡으러 주는 게 좋지 윤대기 지와 단도나 랑그 로나 콘도 로나티 콤페드 드라 랑기 가르 게웨게 로 콤페드 드라라 메드 미로와치 그바 인사 친이 라바잠시 라마사 첸 코랑 고토고레 소다 친이 라바잠시 라마사 간데고 도도지 친이 라바잠시 라마셰베 첸 잠을 되니까 아주 하고도고레스 가라서 라마사 둔다디 다 야게 제비는 구루사데 지와사데 지와스는 지고셔다 연대기 구지 지와 연대 첨부 쉽지에 대봐 다들 지고 첨부 사데 라마 구셔 자고에 대봐 길로 잔이에 대봐 디게 좀 미비체 디갑리야 연대 첨부 시다에 대봐 연대 칸데 요든지 고아 야나 벽에 개완도 제비이미나 라마스도 사나 라는 매바 고나 매바스 거리 가르서는 연대 장니일에 연대다 규주 토알 되지 고 알았어.
And so first, talking about the characteristics of a lama. Actually, when we say lama or guru, in the scriptures it more often says a spiritual friend. The spiritual friend is the term that is found in the scriptures in general. And then in the secret mantra, we see the term guru, or in Tibetan, lama. Now these days in society, we more often say lama. When we talk about the word lama, the Tibetan word lama, it is a translation of the Sanskrit word guru. And so guru here means that it means heavy or weighty with the qualities of the exalted being. So weighty here. Actually, when His Holiness first learned the word and was first reading it, he mistook it for the word for a type of rodent called a chiwa. So it's not referring to rodent; it's referring to weighty in qualities. And so basically, this means that a lama is someone who is weighty with the qualities of the high realm, who's able to help us and who is indispensable for helping us develop those, the exalted or the higher qualities. And so in this way, from the meaning of the word guru or weighty, we can come to understand the meaning or the characteristics in a rough way of what a guru or a lama is. And so in this way, so lama here means weighty in the qualities that we need. But when we say weighty here, this means like able to bear the heavy qualities of a guru. It doesn't mean someone who's fat. It doesn't mean that your lama has to be weighty in physical bulk and should weigh 100 or 200 kilos. It means that the lama is weighty in terms of the qualities that they bear. And then when translated into Tibetan, it was translated as lama, which means literally none higher. And so in this way, this means that there is it means that there is none higher. The lama is unsurpassable. And in practice, what this means is that the lama should be someone who has greater qualities than yourself.
Tene ta gewe shenye sidu sane ta shenye saade karasaran zashiam shenye sidu sane ene so de semta nyu yue de ba da tjege kashwe zashin shebe nyen sa bi zashin shebe nyen sidu sane so da semta nyu yue de be ke nyen de wa nyen sidu nam yu ma zu bunche de so le ya nyen se ba 다이네 타지도 샤타가 제가 주베 분체 미네야 다 셈다니 왜 유산에 딘데 토네지 녜던 자와요 되와 나들에게 신예스 다들 뉴인들이야 아니 개외 신예스 유산에 지금 셈 개월로나 개외로나 티 개월 개외 초를 티에 다들에게 자신시에 근데 지금 단도나 개외가 초보함 지를 초보 자신시에봐 나도 저기 이제 르투브게 초보이 뭐 거시질이야 디톨이야 로나 개외 초를 티드니 다 든지기 다 든지래라 개외 신이 다 와서 쉬위나 어디 들을 수 있다.
The term spiritual friend, or Kalyanamitra in Sanskrit, friend here means someone who is like a kinsperson or a dear friend, a friend and kinsperson. The meaning here is someone who is close to you in mind. And so when we say friend or kinsfolk, then that kinsfolk, of course, often means a relative, but here what we mean is someone who's like close to you. So basically a friend, the spiritual friend. And so when we refer to a spiritual friend, then we mean the friend who is able to lead our minds toward virtue. So our friend in virtue, or a spiritual friend. So in general, this is a good friend who could bring us towards virtuous things. Someone in whom we can have complete confidence and who, no matter what happens, will be able to lead us towards virtue. And so this is a rough understanding of the term spiritual friend.
제가 개회 신년 사디 찌디 민천디기 아주 초진에 개회 신년 땡당한데 롭즈징 아주 천점 되는 천유로 성도 배랑 아주 족보시 때문이나 소소 로도 족보시미나 델레양 아주 컨텐츠 제가 치그래 그러봐 아니 다디 개회 신년 사디 디토래야 너나 개회 초 팅게지다 드리지 뭐지고 가르 유엔된 차지 퇴바선한다 넘베는 주스야래 드린두산에 얘는 스기에 다 라마상게 통스 지금 담담 디 가르스디소 마시나야 라마 디 주소스기 로나게 외쳐서 징게게 정부 상쉐지 봐 루도 정부지 봐 근데지기 봐 가르스에 에 가라고 그놈으로 드리지 계제 드리지 땡과도 계속 딱 간다 녜래야 미버루가 배로 정보 상쉐인 버루지 드리지기 다 정보 상쉐 이민사다 거기 다 들어가서 근주문주지 아주 남주 근주문주지 로데 이제 정보 상쉐라고 말아 다 저소송에 규에 대바 지당 다나지디 지 가수의 빈수 진지 전부에 대바 다는 신기 로데 이些주 니지랴 뢰도 정보 쓰고 봐 어제도 계획인데 니지 과 아 마더베 디니 진짜가 시장 고마서 제 근중문 주체는 데 조조거다 레인주산에 다디 경과대 개집으셔
So from the very word spiritual friend, we can gain a basic idea of how it is that we need to approach a spiritual friend. So when we talk about a friend, well, how is it that we actually will make a relationship with a friend? How do we build a friendship with someone? And then when we add into that with the spiritual friend, that the spiritual friend is someone who can guide our minds into the direction of virtue. And so something that I often say is that whether or not we know anything about lamas or the 1,000 Buddhas, the spiritual friend, the friend is someone whom is like this friend. We have this motivation that we can completely trust that friend entirely. And in order to do that, first you have to have a human connection between each other. It's like there has to be the best friends. You know, it's not this sort of maybe it is, maybe it isn't sort of thing. Whatever occurs is okay. The spiritual friend has to be someone who actually knows you, someone with whom you have a strong connection of the mind, and whom you can have complete trust in. And so that is like your best friend. It's like your spiritual friend is in this way is a similar connection. And so if we don't have that sort of connection, and we think it means that we can do whatever, then we're going to be mistaken or confused by it. So it's important that we understand this.
야 참정 아주 지신다 베저 개개사 베저던 거래. 대티상 개개사도 랍드 주나라 베저던 거. 오늘 신나 개개사데 개회신이 된다는지 권래 창대기 요자. 게사데 개와체 겐사데 겐바사 비로 개와라 겐바사 개와라야 냠뉴여 된게 개와라 주소소레 냠뉴체 아니지 개외 토알야지 신유 소소레 체르 주여도 개겐수 아니 인두스는 주디서다 에 아니 디겐사도 용도도 다 디버 서두산에 배 냠뉴시외 된게 소소 사마뇨도 그렇게 사샤 두산에 에고데 냠뉴샤외 된게 이제 제단은 유 개개인의 디게 만으로 지사 용데 얼마다 다들 두산 단도나 도나 간들지 토네 셴나마시나 다 간다 라마이네데 개외신이네데 개개인네데 소소레 규세 토아지다 다 가다 소소 마셰바지 야 람된 슈사 마깔업난게 깔업난 투바지다 다 딘데지 고거다.
These days, sometimes we also say teacher. Now, often we say teacher, and you think of a teacher with pupils in the school. But actually, if we look at the Tibetan word for teacher, gegen, then this is actually fulfills the meaning of the word spiritual friend, because the first syllable, ge, means virtue. And then the second syllable, gen, means elder. And so this is indicates someone who has more experience in virtue than you yourself does. Someone who has more education and more knowledge of that. So that is a spiritual elder or a spiritual friend, a teacher. Sometimes then we also in Tibetan talk about someone who is elder in wrong, not just someone who is elder in virtue, but someone who is elder in wrong. This is someone who has more experience in doing wrong, someone who has committed wrongs that you have not committed and knows how to do that. But in any case, we need to make sure that we do not mistake the elder in virtue or the teacher for the elder in wrong. But no matter what we call them, whether the guru, the lama, the spiritual friend, or the teacher, the meaning is that it needs to be someone who has greater experience than yourself. Someone who can teach you the path without any mistake, and who can give you advice. That is how we should understand it.
다 텔레한 치당긴 라메치니엘야 다 뉴안에 송데 마긴 뉴안에 송데 야기 상아도 지티베 발레야 라메치니 만도 송야레스 다이네 깝딜야 다 람게림바 기부숨게 람게림바 사나다도 다 아나 티버심베 람게림바 사나다 딘데지 상게 가르쳐 딘데지 숨베 깝이미 디깔이야 템버지 밥던 튜바 간다라 딘디지기 라메스니지고 아데 케침브레스 템버지 밥던 튜바 딘데가 라메스니고 아데 케침브레스 두와지부 마이바 상아지부 마이바 간다 템바 지 밥던 튜베 라메스니 데아데 케침브레 드레 주산디 갈로다 도디 갱나노 신년 두와 시와니 시와 윤데 라버즈 롱기 디니럽도 도바 마케 제외더니 경에 방라 댄 소아디 가르쳐다 남규 다 용자선한 장도 다 템버지 파도 튜베게 라메스니 무슨거 아래 제가 디토는 라메스니도 뒤지듯이 쉬비나 야보면도 섬청기 도디
Now, in the Buddhist teachings, there are many different characteristics given for spiritual friends. There are some in the Vinaya, there are some in the secret mantra Vajra, and everywhere in between. So there are many different characteristics that are taught. But generally here, in the context of discussing the stages of the paths for the three different types of persons, or here in particular, the stages of the path for the Mahayana, then we need to have a set of characteristics that is in general applicable to all of the different teachings. So a characteristic of the Lama that is not just particular to the Vinaya or not just particular to the secret mantra Vajrayana, but a general characteristics for Lama applicable in all the teachings. And there is a quotation from the Ornament of the Mahayana Sutras by Asanga which describes this.
That's ni gewesini tsini gendeno da tindiji ndusane da delaya 당보텔라 신이 신이들라 두와 이제 시와 녀워시와스 다 되게 저 라바 숨기냠래 땡겨요.
And so the characteristics for the spiritual friend given in the ornament of Mahayana Sutras begin by saying that is tamed, peaceful, and fully peaceful. And so this indicates the practice of the three trainings.
다텔라 당부 둘와 사디 조디 라바 수rim기 라베기 룽아기 녀제 담발라 데네 심규 뒤와 미지고.
And so the first word, tamed, refers to the particular training in ethical discipline. This means that by refraining from bad actions of body, speech, one gains peace or a taming of the mind.
대양 룽아 잠바섬 지보면이봐. 다 심 가지고 심 뒤와 심 잠바 미지고 알았어. 남중아 주 배배 가르서나 룽아 잠바 지부 핑거 말았어. 배나 심이 질라서 말어. cut 대야는 ben 잠보 알았어. 당한 잠비 배를 세워다. 이나 디지 룩스디 상 커스텀디 상으로 예배께죠. 맞다. 칠레게 미야우스 게게 두산에 진 잠보르 지역자 나들이 두산에 디 아니 룽아 잠바섬시 뭐임바 심 튀어지고 그래서.
But here, it doesn't merely mean that we're being soft or gentle with the body and speech. It means that we are tamed in the minds, that our minds are also soft and gentle. If it were just being soft and gentle in body and speech, then it would be like a kitty cat who would say meow, meow. It's a very gentle way of speaking. It sounds very nice. So here, we don't mean that. We do not mean merely being gentle in body and speech, but we also mean being tamed in the mind.
다도나 내 당부 발레야 라바 숨기냠 라바 숨기나네 라바 치머니 뭐디 대 띵이지 라바도 시럽기 라바디 개가와레 스네 주산에 에네 라바 수름기 라바디 다 개쳐 인주산에 답변나 무지 选对浪费难的，别呢，不冲中级，是不长目级选对浪费难的，然后就准长目级选对浪费难的，真这个个里啊，上个这把车呢，超话的了民主巴当，等大呢，先给这每个哪样不了说吧，这时等呢，看出来这与老百结束没修把什么的，最起码比了就与老百结束，马上我南上态度，真的就怕搞呢。大这两个就那么就的说的，大也看设计，看说大设计，大样吧，大了看里边就等个吧，这个人就是大个设计天不能行，真的这个真特机关的，真处机关的，搞不能，真的这个，真的就是说的。
For beginners, the latter two trainings, the training in samadhi and the training in wisdom, are more difficult to develop. And so it is important for beginners to especially train in the training in discipline. So for example, if we should feel a wish to kill a bug, some small insect, or we should feel the wish to tell some small lie, we should immediately remember the prohibition against doing this and not engage in that action. Or, for example, if with the faculties of our eyes or ears, our mind should start to move towards some inappropriate object. If we should have some sort of inappropriate attention, our mind moves towards an inappropriate object, then we should immediately and forcefully stop it from that. It's like when you have a horse and the horse has a bit in their mouth. You pull on the reins and pull the bit back to stop the horse forcefully. And so in the same way, we need to stop ourselves forcefully in those situations.
다되네 시와스 주사네 라바 띵이지 예라발라 되네 용원방 고내 용 주사네 고내 발라 되네 되네 시와스 주사네 sem nando ne yundu san sem nando be karju ne yundu wangbo de zo lobe yu le minju ba bena da rawa le ju ba nan xin da de rawa jig nan la ju sha wei mi na an da de chilo le minju wa ko na rawa ti na lo ne de yu ba nan xin wa da de nan xin ko la ba ding yin zing gi nyam le ne de ne mo mo go ne yundu san ne re jing ji sem nando ka cho se sem nando ne yung go re de le de ne karju re da wangbo le so be lobe yu mi ju ba de yung go re 가지고 융아 베나지 토순 섬르베 섭섭 시라 마제베 이미네야 셈기 띵네드네 가르르다 가르르 디스 컨트롤 네 갈라간즈지 가르르 예 왕도 규르투예베 인주산니 디 균zel데네 ngamal tebeine semdis tuor bjungu isre
The next quality is the quality of being peaceful, and so this means that through the training in the excellent training in samadhi, the afflictions are overpowered, and so one becomes more peaceful. This means that the mind will just rest within, it will stay within, and it will not engage the inappropriate objects. It's like when the horse has been put inside a corral. The horse cannot leave the corral. It just naturally stays within. Similarly, when we have the samadhi in our minds, then naturally the afflictions are overpowered and the mind is able to turn inward. It is able to rest within itself. And it naturally does not engage inappropriate objects through the senses. And so here, in this situation, it's no longer necessarily to really restrain the body and speech, because the mind is already in control through the samadhi. It has already gained mastery of that. And so this is more tame than the prior.
다이네암 진짜지 고란 투 심기 ngamal 되네 지 가르 심기 뒤에 남을 내베이네 다데 냠샤이 qablo 마도베 제톱기 qab려야 시바 유를 초조하로다 야나 냠샤를 제도 말하면 저거 답변은 튜를 슈 냠내 제베 qablo 이미나 안 갈라간점지 심기 뒤에 된게 야 냠내 텔레 중세 당의 튠섬기 자와를 슈베 qab려야 심기 초정에 근데 용거라 근데 뉴스안에 라바 시럽기 라발라 된 녀모바 차르제네 녀모바 자와 중징이 수도바 빵네 다들 녀를 저거 다들 이제야 녀월시와 셰베 츠기 개발자와 임바레 드네 다텔에 카시에 가르순 거라서나 라바 띵인징기 라발라 상기 때문에 뒤베게 드네 신의 녀래 거레스 드네 라바 시럽기 라발라 상기 때문에 뒤베 하동기 녀래 고레스 제제 드네 순하레스 다이민디 된 kala khabshar wa lagdon sine tsini ba da lagdon tsini ba kya sare kala khabur je de yimbi ne lagdon de sine da lagdon tsini ba me bi ne te de jitun ba da di chos to ba da tin de ji nyam le je bi ne ba jin ji ya de
And so in comparison to the previous one, taming, the mind is more peaceful. And yet this is only during the meditation, while you're resting in equipoise. When you rise from the equipoise in the post-meditation phase, then the mind gets captivated by something. It gets distracted and taken away. So it's like we can understand this, like when we're sitting in the meditation, we're doing a session, the mind is peaceful and saying that. And then once we get up from our practice, then immediately the mind can be distracted or taken away by something. And so, for that reason, we need to have the extraordinary training in wisdom. And this is the training which will eliminate the afflictions entirely, which will uproot them and entirely eradicate them. And so this is what is meant by the words completely pacifying. So some people, when they talk about this, say that the extraordinary teaching in samadhi taught by the Buddha is the shamatha meditation, and the extraordinary training in wisdom taught by the Buddhists is the vipassana or insight meditation. But this is a little bit problematic because it's difficult for it actually to be really true, authentic vipassana or shamatha and vipassana meditation. And so it seems that even if we do not have really authentic shamatha and vipassana meditation, even if our practice is just harmonious or is just similar enough to that, or can be included within that, then it should be okay.
나한테 연대 화와 사디 가르친 거 알았잖아. 나한테 총가 나는 총사 비시저로다 상계수. 총사디나 가르친 거 알았잖아. 멤버 때문에 미다냠 줄시 태가를 봐봐 때문에 소나네. 조 때문에 당바 토버 기로스. 나한테 내지 수 알아. 나한테 가르쳤잖아. 장래 멤버 이제 장래 윤데 멤버 때나 가르래 유타바지 용고 말았어 유타바지 미용의 띵도 가르래 장기 윤데 공배도 주규처리야 마념고도 줘야니가 그래서 태가를 봐봐 때문에 쏘는 내에서 두산에 란다 윤데 냐버르지면 다 지버지버르지면 두산에 미세게 딱 공배 진존들도 시라메 아마스 조 때문에 담바 토버는 기로스 장래베 윤대 초도 교바 미디어 야르다셔서 섬으로 당 아주 남기지 미디어 셔서 미디어 야르다셔서 단 도나지 소송운에트네 가르서 베다 자게 나는 신부 거부스야죠 다 디니 벽에 나는 가르지 나오다 카츠 류심 다 오늘 니들 기부 담바디 오늘 소수 미디어 야르다셔서 답에 소수용문에 전에다 가르쳐에다 딱 어찌고 민도다 가르쳐다디 문에 전에다 이루 침바로 다 드니지기 강사지 드니지고 그래서
Another characteristic in the quotation from the ornament of the characteristics is that they possess qualities. And so this is something as described in another scripture called the Udanavarga, a collection of words of the Buddha. And in this scripture it says, if they are lesser than you in quality, then there's no way that you can purify your being. If they are the same in quality, then there is no difference at all. So one must follow the greater, and the qualities will develop. And so if the spiritual friend is lesser than you in qualities, then there's no way that you will be able to purify yourself. Instead, there's the great danger that your qualities will be diminished by associating with someone who has lesser qualities than you. And if it is someone who is equal to you in qualities, then there's no way that they will be able to help you improve your qualities. And so it says, by relying on the principle or the higher one, then you will be able to develop qualities. And so here the principle, the higher one, this means someone we can look up to, someone we would want to emulate, someone who we can look up to in all ways. It's difficult to find a good word for it, but basically this means someone whom we can see and feel we can think that would be a good way for ourselves to be.
단도나 지 갑대 매교를 지다 소스 갑대 미셔봐가 다 간다를 근데 저 고유ebra 우마디 별 근데 지그스도 당봉에래 앞에 민들 니야나 따고니 추바로를 잡네 추바 잡네 무슨이 다수수 자는 갑대 미쳐한테 오늘은 학고용도 되네 다시니 가서다 텔레아베 다케 인스타 다 오늘은 가서베 당봉에래야 갑대를 짜네 되네 신이지 갑대 미쳐 지세 누산에 에너지 다 가서에 자식 자탕바 아들 지 90세는 자도 다가데 이를 심부르다 요한 뒤술 심자 다절량 지당기 윤대 장래 하고서 거라서 걔들 면에 마타양 at least someone 왜 다지 마타양 간디지 거라서나 라마데 템베기 거바티 랑레 화와치 드리지 거라서 라마 코랑기 가르 윤덴데 랑레 화와치 매비네 라마데 템베 거바데 랑레 화와치 거라 디 준세 가라서나 조지 반데 어디 샤기 라메 쳐야 조지 르니다 윤데 미냠베 윤데 냠바 마임베 라마데 망고야레스 드레 수수야레 다나 신기 다 소수지리아 디 장골로를 타야라서 바디 주기 되네 장골로를 타야는 장원 킨서 홍보 다디 주기 되네 지 원유 주기 신의 전부 얘기 원유 롱균 권보드서 가르다 냐냐바 라수로 능베 갑리아 되네 지 보다 모르는데 이게 싫다 미생게 되네 가서 이게 미생게 다든데래 아파 이게 돼서 반되네 가서 이게 돼서 반되네 야수 럽네 되네 딘데지네 가서 롱슈베르사 딘데 기저아래 딘데 디서럽딘데 다포모 있는데 윤데 하고 말했다 캬바도 이게 말데 이빈에 다 간다 디서럽딘데 단도나 가서 라마 텐제 라마디 시제산의 윤대인데 라는 사업을 매비네 때때마이나 고바신 첨부지에 되지다 표현 첨부에 되지 진짜 지역의 의미냐 그때는 중국어 알아서 어디서
And so the Lama should be someone whom we're not really able to criticize or able to find fault with. It's like in Tibet, sometimes in Tibet. First, when you meet someone, then you kind of get in a fight with them. You argue with them, you get in a fight, and then only once you realize that there's really nothing that you can really criticize the other person for, then at that point it's like, okay, this person is all right. You can be my friend. And so first you get in the conflict, you get in the fight, and then finally, once you realize that there's no fault, no reason to criticize, then you can be 100% devoted or 100% respectful to the person. So it's like that. Now, in general, it's said that we should follow lamas who are greater than ourselves in qualities. But sometimes, if we don't find someone who is greater than ourselves in qualities, at the very least, there should be a very good reason for serving a lama who is not. Or the reason for serving or following that lama should be greater than oneself. So in other words, that the particular lama whom you're serving may not be greater than yourself in terms of the qualities, but there is a good reason, there's a good purpose for serving that lama. For example, when Atisha was asked about the lamas that he had followed, he said that there were many different lamas whom he had followed, many of whom were not equal to him in qualities. And similarly, later, during the time of Jamgon Kontra Lodotayam, Janyan Kensei Wangpo, and so forth, when they were seeking to revive and restore the transmissions of empowerments that had from the 8 different chariots of the practice lineages, there were some empowerments that had become very rare. And so the only people who held these empowerments were some elderly men and women, some of whom who barely knew how to read or did not know how to read at all. And so there's stories about Jamgon Control and Jamgon Khyentse Ronpo reading a few words of the text to these people and then them reciting it back to them in order to receive the transmissions of them in this way. And so this is how it is. These older, we can't of course say that that elderly people do not have greater qualities than ourselves. But sometimes in cases, even if on a fundamental level they do not necessarily have greater qualities than ourselves, if there is a particular reason and a particular purpose in following and serving that Lama, then it is all right to do so.
다들은 유대라고 존재사대 존주의 데마사로 도나도도 존주사 고아데 겁들이야 쪼아야 되버질 고고야 드네 주사네 신dun지다 라버도 로메 튼주발래야 쪼아단 제바 든지지 쪼아 땜보여야 되다 든지지 고여다 드네 이제 라버도 롱기 축 바사데 가래서나 데네 숨라 소발라드네 케와다 아 든데게 지기 고주게 남샤 야첨보 셰네 셰셰베 든지미나 로도 도섭셔 로도 슈심보도 두바 야나네 야 롱기 축 바사데 통게 되게로 첨보 예대바 아 든지지 야외 가딘 율라서바 디줄이야 통계 되게 첨부해야 되와 드리질에 권해 주기보다
The ornament of the sutras continues by saying that they should be superior to you in qualities and they should be diligent. And so here being diligent means that they are enthusiastic, that they're enthusiastic about being diligent for the sake of other beings in general, and in particular for the sake of the students whom they guide. The citation continues by saying that they are rich in the scripture. And so this means someone who is learned in the three baskets of the Buddha's teachings. Someone who understands the words of the Buddha thoroughly, who has studied them. Someone who understands the presentations of what to refute, what to present, and so forth. In other words, someone who is able to eliminate our misconceptions and our thoughts. And our misconceptions and our doubts. Also, this can be understood as someone who has a wide and vast knowledge, who has read and heard many of the different scriptures of the Buddha and many of the treatises.
제바가 돈이 더 되면 대더마 존나데 이주이 관에 돈이 더 되와 다 대야마 존나 다 롱르기 관에 돈이 기지 가서 돈이 사드레사로 지 땡라판 롱르기 관 땡라판 돈이 고아서는다 아고 돈이 고된듯이 셰데 다 드는지 고아레스 다 대야 지당기 신의 멘체 마지 Lomal Tio Galia, Tony Madonna, but it is. I love on Galia, that Tony de Calanzo Madonna. Then it Lomalia, Chita Mever, the Indusane, the Jaggy, young Gavita.
The quotation continues, they have full realization of the two truths. And so this is the full realization of the two truths here means in particular that they have directly perceived and realized emptiness. And so that is the best. If not that, then at least that they have understood it in a general term or through inference. And if they're not able to do that, that they have a good conception of it, a good understanding of it. And if they do not have that, then an understanding from the scripture that and logic that they're able to say this is what emptiness is. They can prove what it is, and they can explain how to understand emptiness. And so when we are receiving instructions in everything up to and including the shamatha meditation, then it's okay if they do not have a full realization of emptiness. However, if in instructions on insight or vipassana meditation, then it's important that they have the realization of emptiness, as otherwise they will be unable to actually teach you the insight meditation.
다즈네 마케스 마케바 마케바사데 단 반두자다 로마티즈라마 최셰드 체베제 최드즈베 테가 심규 셈리아 베카르레 가서 다치 고라제자샤 데그레 다티 지 셈리아 셈소르 게토바 남사나 지 델리아 오네 가르레 네 두자드즈 칸라 칸상바 나 델리아 대다도 봐 지가르레 체베 마 체베 유산 체베 제당 다나신 치련디서 심규 쿨체와 섬레 심규 쿨체와 된다는 신기 셈리아 다티상 이제 가서 move 섬레 다티 셈리아 구겨 쇼심부터 돈도 제르지 바지 고유자
The next quality is that they need to be skilled in speaking. And so this is someone who, when they are teaching the Dharma to you, they're able to affect your mental, your stream of mind. They're able to produce some sort of feeling in your mind. And so when they teach, they're able to teach what is appropriate to the students. And so at that point, it matches what the students need, And so in this way, the words that they use are able to inspire your mind. They're able to move your mind. It's like they're able to move you in this way. And so that is how we should understand this as being skilled in speaking.
다들 종의 방법, 这我的写上的，这我是就是啥呢？ 니구 론제라 소발을 미다와 다 로마레야 지sem제 양국에서 로마레 참니지 근롱기 근내라면 거는 최대면 이제 고유선에 경의 방법도 자네 유ring보당 양의 양도 최발라서 버든데게 다까지 수통계 되지 고유자
And so they should also be compassionate. This means that they do not teach in order to receive things or food or so forth. They're not looking for that from their students. Instead, they are teaching out of compassion for all sentient beings in general and their students in particular. And then they're also able to disregard discomfort and fatigue. So this means that when they teach the Dharma, they're able to disregard any fatigue or any tiredness that they might feel, and they're still able to keep teaching.
다 든지기 단 도나 라바숨 다다 텔레소바 다 도나 랑 르니기 르규레야데 랑심什么的 人이 톱게 위인데 선한다도 人규를 폐배기 위인데 초 현재수 집에 위인데 시 위인데 주고 什么的 위인데 주스도 대인주사다 위인데 주고디 신년 잡려야 위인데 주가 상바 단 진래야 되게 제가 다 되네야 또 망고 수화도 하대 이라울레 차가다는 내 시자다는 계자다는 망고시 내마다 간다베 지가르베 드네 창고레스 다 되네야 윤대 창와사디 탐젤 되네 윤대데 창와지 갈라하고 예수 미 탐젤 되네 다 간다스 소소르니라 미 탐젤 되네 시두상 다고 라마디 윤대 창도데 양베 라마 지지진데 질레 be tuen ta ko kan re min du sa so ru ji dine che ne be tham che le tuen ne ko be yun de chang ding ge shu ji ke bar pha ba sa ji ka la kha bo re so ta de ta so so ren ni le ta ji dan yun de chang ge ji ta so so ren ni le ngo ne ne ka shu ta ji ka shu ta ji rang ge nang sue le ya chi da na wa te la tuen ne chi de ma de sha go ro ma do 탐제를 되네 진이대마데 사르 샤드 걸어 가보시라레스 심지어 탐제를 되네 진이대마데 샤드 걸어 가보시라레스 다 수수 낭수에라 단 저도사나 아버지 디네드 차샤르 마도베 이제 심지어 탐제를 되네 샤드 걸어 가보시라레스
And so, in this way, in brief, these are 10 different qualities. There are the 6 qualities of the benefit that they have achieved for themselves in their own mind, that they've achieved on their own part. And then there are also the 4 qualities that they need in order to take care of others. And so, basically, there are these 10 qualities. Now, the best of the spiritual friends will have all of the 10 qualities. The intermediate will have half of them. So there are many different levels of these that can be had. It's said that sometimes there are 2, or sometimes there are 4 or 8, and there are different ways of counting all of these. But when we see how many qualities the spiritual friend has, then this is not in relation to all sentient beings. It's really in relation to yourself. In other words, when we follow the Lama, then it would be difficult for the Lama to have all of those qualities in the perception of all sentient beings. So it's really in our own perceptions that it's important that we, in relation to ourselves, do they have all these 10 superior qualities? And so if in our own perception we see that they have those 10 qualities, then it is appropriate for us. It may not appear that way to others, and so it's difficult for this it would be difficult for this to be in relation to all sentient beings. So instead, if we perceive the Lama as having the 10 qualities, all the qualities, then that is fine. It is not in relation to all sentient beings. So I think that this is a good place to leave off this morning.